Hello everybody, I am going to do a video that I technically did when I first started this channel. However, I was learning the ins and outs of different cameras to use, and it ended up splitting up into two different parts. It was far too long, so this is a little bit more concise, and I didn't go back and watch this video to, match up my ranking. So all that being said, and as you can tell by the thumbnail, I'm going to do the old standby of ranking the Beatles studio albums. Now, of course, I'm not going to count Yellow Submarine, as I don't consider that a real album. Um, it's mostly a compilation with some new tracks. And I'm not going to include Past Masters, because that is also a compilation with, singles, B-sides, and alternate album cuts. So, with that being said, I'm going to run through and rank the albums. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's 12 albums. Sorry. 12 studio albums. So, at number 12, with the Beatles' second album. Not to be confused with the Beatles' second album. I don't know why it's number 12. Maybe at just where I am right now in my life. A lot of these songs, a lot of these covers aren't my favorites. Like Devil in Her Heart is not one of my favorite Beatles songs. Not a Second Time. Money. None of those tracks really get to me. Even the originals, like All I've Got to Do, the John Lennon song, I'm not crazy about. I love the opening, It Won't Be Long. I love All My Lovin'. Till There Was You is one of the prettiest covers they did, the Meredith Wilson song. Hold Me Tight. I like the album, but it's number 12. All right, shockers here, folks. It's going to start early. Number 11 for me, Rubber Soul. Obviously, these are all the UK versions. This is not the American version. I I don't know. Something about Rubber Soul has never fully grabbed me like some of the other albums. This is obviously mid-career Beatles. This is when they were kind of focusing more on the album as opposed to, singles. There weren't really any number ones on this album. I mean, they had the, Drive My Car, uh, Michelle were pretty big songs. Norwegian Wood is one of my favorites. You Won't See Me, Nowhere Man, some of the best harmonies. But the song Wait, Run for Your Life, The Word, Think for Yourself, none of those songs, again, have ever really hit me the way that, some of the other Beatles tracks have. Again, all these albums are great. I've got to say that. Otherwise, I'll have people complaining in the comments that I don't like the Beatles. Because, of course, I don't like the Beatles. Anyway, Rubber Soul, number 11. Number 10, the debut by the Beatles, Please Please Me, featuring Love Me Do and 12 other songs. Great opening for the Beatles' career, and one of the best opening tracks to any album. With I Saw Her Standing There, that fantastic count in by Paul, 1, 2, 3, 4, and one of the best closers with Twisted Shout, which, as far as I'm concerned, that's a Beatles song. I know it's a cover, but it's a Beatles song. We all agree. Ferris Bueller agrees. Chains, I love George's voice on Chains. I love the harmonica by John on there. P.S. I Love You is, I really like that song. I love how it ends, as I write this letter, oh, send my love to you. I want you to. I love that. A Taste of Honey, I like their version. Do you want to know a secret? Fantastic song for George. But songs on here, Misery has never stuck with me. Boys, I always thought was weird that they covered. I know that was a song, Pete Best used to sing, I believe, and then they pushed it over to Ringo. There's a Place, Baby It's You, with the sha la 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 la, which was the Shirelles, I believe. I mean, the Beatles were young. They were hungry. This was essentially, one of their Cavern Club sets that they recorded in less than a day at EMI and Abbey Road. So it's number 10. So sorry, folks, for fans of that album. Another big one, and for those that watch my channel, there's kind of an ongoing joke with myself and other members of my core group, Larry Graves, Glenn Kellaway, Rich Strickler, Randall Nelson, that I hate this album, which of course is not true. This is the self-titled album, also known as the White Album from 1968. Um, the Beatles album after their big retreat in India. Um, it's a hodgepodge. It's the patchwork quilt Beatles album. It's the Beatles after they've been listening to groups like the Band. This is the Beatles, probably the closest thing to a Beatles acoustic unplugged album, unless you count, like Let It Be Naked, which I don't. But in terms of how they actually intended an album, this is the closest to an acoustic album of the Beatles. So you're thinking, why wouldn't I put that in higher regard, being an acoustic guy? Well, obviously, again, a killer opener back in the USSR, and then how it merges into the beautiful Dear Prudence. Love it. And then it kind of gets weird with Glass Onion, which, John has like this ripping voice, like, oh yeah, he's kind of doing that, his heavy metal voice. But songs like The Continuing Story of Bungalow Bill, Piggies, um, Everybody's Got Something to Hide Except for Me and My Monkey, Sexy Sadie, Long, Long, Long. I don't care for those songs. Savoy Truffle, obviously Revolution 9, you know. So, I mean, it's got great moments. Personally, I'm actually a big fan of Good Night, the last song. I love the Ringo vocal. I love Don't Pass Me By. And then, obviously, to me, George's finest achievement with While My Guitar Gently Weeps is on this record, with Eric Clapton playing that solo. But, yeah, it's number 9 for me. Sorry. Number 9. Number 9. Number 8, the second of the Beatles movie soundtrack, so to speak, albums. Help. Obviously, the killer title track, great single with Ticket to Ride is a fantastic, that jangly, down, 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 down. You can definitely tell how groups like the Byrds and REM and, were taking that jangle sound that the Beatles had. One of my favorite Paul vocals with The Night Before. Obviously, Yesterday is on here, which is Rob at Northern Revolution's favorite song of all time. I've Just Seen a Face, great kind of country song. I think the Dillards have a great version of that, the bluegrass group. Some weaker spots on here, You Like Me Too Much, It's Only Love, Dizzy Miss Lizzy, which was, to me, it was kind of unfortunate they put Dizzy Miss Lizzy on this album. I know they had to get that 14th track in. But at this point, the Beatles were pretty well established songwriters, and to throw in a cover, to me, it was just lazy. But I know John loved the song. He continued to play it the few times that he would perform live after the Beatles. All right, number 7. Sorry, the other soundtrack, Hard Day's Night. My buddy Matthew Street just talked about this being a perfect album for him. It's a great album. To me, it's not a perfect album. Songs like When I Get Home, You Can't Do That, they kind of make it fall short for me. But again, beautiful songs on here. If I Fell and I Love Her, which is probably a top 10 favorite Beatles song to me. Can't Buy Me Love, a killer pop song. Anytime at All is great vocals by John Lennon. So, Hard Day's Night. Next up, this is one that a lot of people put at the bottom. For me, it's kind of in the middle for sentimental reasons. Beatles for Sale. This was the album that directly followed Hard Day's Night, and was kind of the sandwich between Help and A Hard Day's Night. This is the Beatles, again, just one of those albums similar to their early Please Please Me with the Beatles albums, where like half the songs are originals, half the songs are covers. I love the song I'll Follow the Sun. Again, another top 10 Beatles song for me. Babies in Black, always love that song. Honey Don't, I love that song where Ringo says, rock on George, one time for Ringo. I think that's so cool. I saw Ringo do that live a few years ago, and that was really cool. Mr. Moonlight, it's not a favorite by a lot of Beatles fans. It's got that organ on it. It kind of sounds like a funeral parlor. I love the song What You're Doing with that boom, bop, boom, boom, bop, bop. Love that. And then Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby to close it off. It's fantastic. And the Beatles do a great version of Words of Love, the Buddy Holly song. Actually, I prefer their version just a little bit better than Buddy Holly. All right, the Big Guns, top 5. Again, voted by many people as the greatest album of all time. We just got the big reissue last year. This is Revolver. To me, it's that it's that moment where the Beatles were going from black and white into color. Songs like Tomorrow Never Knows, one of my favorite John Lennon songs. Taxman with that great count in, the George song. Andrew Burke Can Sing, a great early power pop song. For No One is a beautiful ballad by Paul. She Said, She Said. Here, There, and Everywhere, one of my favorite ballads. I'm Only Sleeping in that great minor key with that kind of like that acoustic up strum on the guitar. Love it. So number 5 is Revolver. Number 4, this one really moved up in the ranks ever since the box set came out. This is the final release of the Beatles. This is Let It Be from 1970. Again, other than the White Album, one of the closest things the Beatles got to kind of an unplugged, stripped down album. Love the song Two of Us. Love the song Across the Universe for like straight on acoustic music. It's got some, clunkers with like the filler with Maggie May and Dig It, which are fine, but they're not necessary. Get Back. I mean, what a killer, bass track by Paul McCartney. One After 909 really became a favorite after watching the Get Back movie. Love it. And of course, it's got Long and Winding Road and Let It Be on it. So it is number 4. Number 3, Glenn's favorite album of all time, Glenn Kellaway. This is Sgt. Pepper, 1967. Again, Rolling Stone had it for years as the number 1 best album of all time. And then I think they bumped it down to like number 20 or 25. Which, they're stupid. But anyway, the Beatles trying to take on the new identity of Sgt. Pepper, even though really only 3 tracks acknowledge that, with the Sgt. Pepper title track, the reprise, and then With a Little Help from My Friends, where they reference, Billy Shears to be Ringo Starr's alter ego. But you've got songs on here, Good Morning, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. To me, they're my favorite song by the Beatles, A Day in the Life. Lovely Rita, She's Leaving Home. I mean, it's just killer. When I'm 64, a song that I covered for my grandparents' 50th anniversary back in 2010. So that song holds a special place in my heart. Fixing a Hole, it's just a great album. But to me, it's not one, and I'm gonna get some crap for it. To me, it's not an album that it's not an album that I would recommend a new Beatles fan to start on. I'll say that. I'll leave it at that. And this will get me a lot of crap, but I think I've got another buddy in the VC, I won't say his name, Rich Strickler, that agrees with me on this. I like this album better than Sgt. Pepper. This is number 2. Magical Mystery Tour, again, another soundtrack by the Beatles for the TV film of the same name. This is the only album that the US version became core canon in the Beatles discography, as the original UK release was just an EP that featured songs from the film, which was kind of a stream of consciousness psychedelic road trip that Paul McCartney kind of came up with. Great opening track with Magical Mystery Tour. The Fool on the Hill, a beautiful McCartney ballad. Flying is weird, kind of creepy. With like the ba 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 ba. I like it, but it's weird. And then it goes into Blue Jay Way, which is one of the scariest Beatles songs. The George Harrison psychedelic trip. Your Mother Should Know, kind of an old vaudeville kind of song, spearheaded by Paul McCartney. I Am the Walrus, John Lennon's psychedelic masterpiece. Again, referenced in Glass Onion the following year. And then the second side was just, singles from various releases with Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, Baby You're a Rich Man, which is an underrated gem, and then All You Need Is Love, probably the Beatles, I would say the Beatles' most famous song. So that is number 2, and big surprise, as I've said it many, many times, it's my second favorite album of all time. It is Abbey Road. I've talked about this album ad nauseum, so I will not even go into it, other than the fact that it is an absolute 10 out of 10. Even with Octopus's Garden and Maxwell Silverhammer, I think this album is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So anyway, there you go. Just something fun. I wanted to put a video out, but I didn't have a new idea for a video. But this is one that has kind of been cooking for a little bit. I wanted to reevaluate my ranking and see what y'all thought. So I know I'm going to get some comments because it's a Beatles video and people love to bash other people's Beatles opinions. I'll say bring it on. But please subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. I look forward to talking to y'all in the comments. Yeah, So enjoy. Be good. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye now.